Hello students, how are you? Hope you are all fine. Okay, in this section, in this lesson, I am going to teach the second important lesson from the prose section, that is the secret of work. The name of the lesson is The Secret of Work, written by the great Hindu monk, a spiritual leader who tried to awake the Indian youth, not only Indian youth, but also the youth in the world with his preachings and teachings. With his preachings and teachings and through his books. We generally hear a number of quotations, inspiring quotes particularly, that are given by this great spiritual leader, Swami Vivekananda. So now we are going to learn about the Swami Vivekananda and what he says about work. So before going into detail, let me introduce, this is Satish from Sambars Junior College, English Medium, Palakollu. Okay, let's start. What is the secret of the work by Swami Vivekananda? And see the duration the great monks lived. He was born in the year 1863 and died in very early age, 1902. So let's see the point regarding about the author. Okay, see, a versatile genius of India, Swami Vivekananda was born on 12th January 1863. As we all know, the birth date of Swami Vivekananda is still celebrated as National Youth Day. National Youth Day. And in Calcutta, so it was considered as Calcutta in those days. Now it is called as Kolkata. So whatever the name may be, his original name was Narendranath Datta. What is the original name of Swami Vivekananda? His original name was Narendranath Datta. And he was born to the parents. His father's name was Vishwanath Datta and his mother name was Bhuvaneshwari Devi. Let's see another point. So he is a philosopher, spiritual master and writer. He is a philosopher, spiritual master and writer. So with his preachings, he tried to make many people, and he gives the knowledge of, he gives his great knowledge to the people and want to make as many as youth as spiritually strong, So such a great fellow he was, such a great philosopher he was. And here we need to learn versatile genius. Versatile means multi-talented. A person who has multi-skills and who can deal with many subjects are called versatile genius. And that was about his. And see the third one. In 1881, he became the disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, another spiritual master, and received enlightenment. So from whom our Swamiji got enlightenment? His guru was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He enlightened him and accepted him as his disciple and endowed his knowledge upon him. Then Narendranath Datta was named as Swami Vivekananda. That was the name given by the great Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in the year 1881. Thus, Narendranath Datta has changed as Swami Vivekananda. And see the next point. He was India's representative at the Parliament of World Religion in Chicago in 1839. And this is the incident, this is the tour which changes the life of Swami Vivekananda. And this particular collaboration, this particular meeting, this particular gathering brings Vivekananda into a limelight. Then he was popular. From that speech, he popularized himself across the globe. So many countries has known, still trying to know and still trying to learn the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. So that was the only meeting that changes the era of India also. After this meeting, so many changes has been done regarding religion, particularly Hindu religion. Until that, there was a domination of Christian missionaries in India. So when Swami Vivekananda emerged and started promoting Hinduism and the great things regarding Hinduism, then many people started following him. So such an inspirational meeting that was held in Chicago in the year 1839. In this meeting, he was given a little time to speak, but with his extraordinary oratory powers, he made the audience mesmerized with his meanings. Thus, he brings forth the greatness of Hindu religion through his speech. So such a great fellow and such a great promoter of Hindu religion among the world, across the world. Okay, and these are all the important things we need to know about a writer, about the great legend Swami Vivekananda. And let's go into the detail about our essay. And see, the present essay is a speech delivered by him at Los Angeles in the year 1900 on January 4, 1900. So our essay, The Secret of Work, is also a speech given by Swami Vivekananda on January 4 in the year 1900, before the 2 years of his death. So what is the thing he is going to teach us in this particular essay, Swami, The Secret of Work? In this essay, he points out, he explains the nature of work, the things that guide the conduct of the human beings, and the direct method of curing the miseries of human beings. The direct method of removing miseries of human beings. That's the thing he tries to give us in detail in this particular essay. So there is one other thing we need to remember regarding Swami Vivekananda is his entire teachings and his entire books was published in a 9-volume set, and a name was given for that book, that is The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. It was a 9-volume set. So we need to study 9 volumes if you want to learn completely about Swami Vivekananda. So the book of the Swami Vivekananda teachings is called The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. This particular essay, this particular book gives us the information regarding the teachings and the great things what Swami Vivekananda told. Okay, let's begin the essay and what he teaches us based on Bhagavad Gita. In this particular essay, he took the quotation, work as worship, and what is the secret of work, based on the Hindu scripture, the holy book for the Hindus, Bhagavad Gita. Let's see what he says about the secrets of work. What are the secrets of work in this essay? Okay? As I said, here Swami Vivekananda says the secrets of work. So how he explains in detail. So let's see. In the first paragraph of the textbook, the first thing he suggests how the miseries of the world can be cured. The paragraph begins with a question: how the miseries of the world can be cured. So before that, we should know the meaning of miseries. What are miseries? So nothing but an event or a words or a consequence that makes you feel sad, that makes you feel sad, that makes you unhappy, distress, struggle. So all these words refers miseries. So why do human beings get miseries? According to Bhagavad Gita, if we do not have control over our desires, the things what we do are doing and had done, so those things reflects and those things results and brings our misery, So what here Swami says how the miseries of the world can be cured, and he finds a solution also. He not only questions and he gives the answer also. The only solution for this problem is to make mankind pure. To make mankind pure. Here Swamiji says, with the physical help, can we cure the miseries of the human being? No, we can't. So what does Swamiji refers here by means of physical help? If you donate money to a poor man, or if you give shelter to a refugee, and the good deeds what we do, these are all considered as physical help. If you bring someone who is struggling, who is suffering from a disease, and bring him to the hospital and get him to treatment, So these kinds of deeds are called physical help. So with this physical help, can we cure the miseries of the world? No, we can't. Why? Because these kinds of things gives a particular person the service what has been done by you to the people makes him happy for a temporary time, for some time only, but not permanently. So that's why with physical help we can't cure the miseries of the world. Then what is the solution? Here Swamiji says the only solution to cure the miseries of the world is to make mankind pure. So remember the students, mark this sentence in your textbook, because it is one of the annotations given after the lesson, given at the end of the lesson. So the only solution for the problem is to make mankind pure and to make mankind enlightened. So because of these things we can cure the miseries of the world. What Swamiji says here. Then when the miseries of the world can be cured by changing our character, by establishing a character, then only we can see the world as a charitable asylum. We see every house. If you make mankind pure, good at character, we can see every house as a charitable asylum. So what is the meaning of asylum here? Asylum means a place where refugees can be protected. So here, with this solution, he is giving the direct method. The direct method of curing the miseries of the world is to make the mankind pure and to make them spiritually strong. To make them spiritually strong. Then only we can cure the miseries of the world. That is the solution here Swamiji gives in the first paragraph. And take the next one. In the second thing, as a second point, here Swami Vivekananda gives what is the nature of work. What is the nature of work? So work means the deeds what we do in our daily life or our profession. If you are doing your profession, it is also considered as a work. If you are doing a labor work, this is also called a work. So everything, every activity is called work in a common sense. Okay, here he tries to explain the nature of work. What is the nature of work? We must all work incessantly, what Bhagavad Gita says here. This is one of the important thing the Hindu scripture says to us is we must all work incessantly. Here the word incessantly means continuously. Here the word incessantly means continuously, without any interruption. Without any interruption. So Swamiji suggests us we must all work incessantly, without any interruption. So here there is another annotation in the second paragraph, that is, every work must necessarily be a mixture of good and evil. Yet we are all commanded to work incessantly. And mark these two lines also, these sentences in your textbook. This is also one of the annotations, the annotation number 2. So what here we need to learn is this: every work must necessarily be a mixture of good and evil. So the work what we do is a mixture of both good as well as evil. We cannot do any work by doing completely good to someone and not with the intention of doing completely bad to someone. But it is a mixture. Unintentionally, it involved both good and evil. So both the actions, whether it is a good action or whether it is a bad action, have their own consequences, have their own results. How does their results, how does they show, how does they affect on us? Every work leaves a mark, leaves an impression on the surface of your mind. It will be stored in subconsciously. It will be stored in our mind subconsciously. So every work has its own impression. It leaves a mark. So if you want to do only good work, or if you want to do only bad work, it is all the result of the impressions. Here Swamiji gives an example that he compares the mind as a lake. Here take the mind as a lake. If you see a lake, sometimes a waves moves on the surface of the water. If you throw a stone, it will make a ripple, a small wave. It produces a small ripple, and these ripples are the impressions. These ripples are the impressions made by the results of good deeds and bad deeds. If you do good things, and good impressions will be stored in your mind. If you do bad, the bad impressions will be stored in your mind. So they will work subconsciously. They will work subconsciously. So then our mind will try to do. It instructs the heart to do good things or bad things. So we can understand in whole manner those impressions, the impressions made by the good deeds or those impressions made by the bad deeds will make us to move on this life, will make us to move on this life. So that's why here Swamiji says that good and bad are good things and bad things. Good deeds or bad deeds are bondages of the soul. They just catch your soul. They just arrest your soul. They will not allow your soul to progress in a spiritual manner, to progress in a spiritual way. They obstruct you. They stop you. Then what should we do to come out of these impressions? Come out of these impressions. So here he continues to. The central idea of the Gita is the solution for the problem to remove these impressions from the mind is to work incessantly, but do not attach to it. To work incessantly, but do not attach to it. Here Swamiji suggests us, Swami Vivekananda suggests us, do not attach to it. So don't think over what you are doing. Don't think over what you are doing. If you do good things, your mind will allow you. Your mind prepares you to do only good things. If there are many bad impressions are stored in the mind, those impressions will allow you to do bad things. So that's why we must work incessantly without thinking about the consequences of the good things or bad things. But here, how can a man character is established? How can we come out of this thing? That means, how can we come out without affecting of these good impressions and bad impressions? As Swamiji said, this is a bondages of evil. Good and bad are bondages of evil, and we just attach to it. So what Bhagavad Gita says here is the central idea is work incessantly but not attach to it. Don't think over it. Just do your work only. So that is the second thing here what Vivekananda says in his second paragraph. And see the third one, the concept of samskara. This is the third stage. Here Swami Vivekananda questions that how does a man's character established? How can you be a good person? How can you be recognized as a man of character? According to Swami Vivekananda, a man of character is samskara. How does we establish samskara, a man of character? Here Swamiji gives a familiar word that refers samskara is inherent tendency. Inherent tendency is the very familiar word that Swamiji refers here to explain the concept of samskara and nothing but man of character. So how does we establish a good character in our mind? How does be a good person? Here, take the example of tortoise. He gives an example of tortoise. what does a tortoise teach? So if you watch a tortoise, it has a separate mechanism. It's a different kind of animal. When you try to catch it, whenever it feels fear, it just tucks, it just envelops, moves its legs and hands into its shell. The shell of the tortoise is very hard to break. If you want to kill it, if you want to break it, the hard shell of the tortoise with a hard material, it will not let its hands and legs out of the main shell. Thus, man should be also. Do not attach to the impressions of bad and good deeds. Bad and good deeds. Here we can understand the hard shell of the tortoise is like the main character. So thus, character of man, samskara, to be established. How can we establish samskara, man character? By doing good deeds only, by being good, without thinking of the results of our actions. So try to do good deeds. And if your mind is completely with positive thoughts, and if you always do good deeds, the impressions of good deeds stored in our subconscious mind, and it will not allow you to do bad. If you want intentionally to do bad, it will not allow you, because the impressions are already stored. The impressions are already stored in your mind. They just make you run. They just move you, push you to do good only. Thus, by doing good deeds, we can establish a character. We can establish a character. If a man's character is established, if a man has a good character, he is always in a safe condition. That means no sin will be attached, no sin will be harm him. There is no harm to him. So that is what here Vivekananda says. Thus, character of man will be established. And that is the third thing he discussed with us. Okay, then that is a good point. And in the fourth paragraph, if you move on to the next one, he says about liberation. What is the meaning of liberation? So here liberation means freedom. Here liberation means freedom. Freedom from the attachment of work. Freedom from the bondages of soul. In the previous concept, Vivekananda suggested to establish a good character in your mind and just try to do good things, and good deeds leaves an impression on your mind that works subconsciously, and it will push you. It will push you to do only good things. So by doing good things, we can establish a good character. So we thought that here is the end. No. He takes us to another step, that is called liberation. It is a higher state than a character. Liberation from the bondages of good and evil is the next stage than character. So establishing good character is not enough. There is another stage. So here we should get the freedom from good as well as evil. Good as well as evil. So until now, we just be good is enough. But here, just leave the good also. That means he is not suggesting to you don't need to do good things. He don't mean that. Just try to do good things. But don't let the good deeds leave impression on your mind. That is called liberation. You must free from the bondage. You must free yourself from the bondage. And these are the stages. If you know the secret of work, these are the stages we have to move from one stage to another stage to know the secret of the work. In the first thing, he says that the direct method of curing miseries of the world. The solution, what Swami Vivekananda suggests here is to make mankind pure and to make him good. And ignorance is the mother of all evil. So that's why he just travels from dark to light. He just come out of the dark into the light. He just leave the ignorance. So ignorance is the only cause for all evil. So that's why make yourself aware. Just learn. And in the second thing, he just suggests us to work incessantly. And the third thing is the central idea of work incessantly but do not attach to it. And the fourth stage is, after the establishment of good character, get the liberation from it. Get the liberation from it. Okay? ఇంకో రెండు పాయింట్లు ఉన్నాయి దాపైన. As we are discussing the fourth point, liberation. How we will get liberation from bondages of evil and good. So this is the another stage after the establishment of the character. In the previous thing, I gave an example of tortoise. If you want to kill a tortoise, it will pushes its feet and legs into its hard shell. You may break it into pieces, it will not come out. Like that, we should have control over our inner forces. That means indriyas. Indriyas means sense organs. If you have control over inner forces, man character should be established. And nothing can be draw a man out of his good force. And evil cannot drag him out of the good force. So thus, we will be safe as like a tortoise that is hidden under a hard shell. Thus, by control over our indriyas, we can get to the next stage of liberation. After establishing of the good character, we should move on to the next stage, liberation. Here, Swamiji suggests that free from the bondages of the evil as well as good also. Evil is okay, but how can we come out of the good impressions? As we discussed before, the sum total of the good and bad impressions makes a man's character. The sum total of the impressions that are resulted by the good deeds and bad deeds makes a man's character. If he does good deeds, good character will be established. If he does bad deeds, bad character will be established. But here he gives us another suggestion. Just free from out of the bondage of the good also. That is called liberation. So when we get this stage, we just make ourselves mind as thing like that. Take this example. A golden chain is as much as a chain as an iron one. Here Swamiji suggests us how we maintain a balance between good and bad. When a man reaches to the stage of liberation, whether it is a golden chain or an iron chain, so both are equal to him, same. Both are same to him. If you take an example, so take the golden chain as a good deed and iron chain as a bad deed. And he suggested do not attach to the work what you have done. So when you reach the stage of liberation, you will take both good and bad in a equal manner, and you never think of it. So such kind of people who reach to that stage takes in an equal manner whether it is a good or a bad. Here Swami Vivekananda gives an example of another thing. That is, if there is a thorn that pricks into our finger, if a thorn is in finger, how do you take it out? See here, he just take another thorn and just with the help of the second thorn, he just take it out the first thorn. Here the second thorn helps us to get the relief from the pain that is made by the first thorn. Okay. Here he asked a question. What is that? The second thorn helps you to get relief. Because of that reason, can you keep that thorn with you? No, you can't. You just throw it away. You just throw it out. After all, it is a thorn. It may hurt you. So like that, a man who reached the stage of liberation treats the good things and the bad things in an equal manner. He never think of it. So that is the liberation stage that human being should reach. This is what Bhagavad Gita teaches us. This is what the Bhagavad Gita teaches us. And come to the next thing. So thus the bad tendencies are to be counteracted by the good ones. In the stage of liberation, we should also free from the good tendencies also. Here I am reading this point again. The bad tendencies are to be counteracted by the good ones until evil subdued. Here the word subdued means silent. So we should take them out. What should we take them out? What should we take out? We should take out the impressions created by the bad ones. It will be replaced by good things. It should be replaced by good things. And thus the attached becomes unattached. Here he makes another example. That is, he regularly meets so many people in his ashram. He regularly meets so many people in his ashram. Suppose in a day he meets 100 people to listen to their problems or something else. And when he meet 100 people a day, when he going to bed, when he retires at night, only one face will appear before his eyes. Only one face or two faces will appear before his eyes. Most probably one face. So why, when he meets 100 people, why should one face only create impression on his mind? Maybe Swamiji likes that fellow. Maybe that particular person is very familiar to Swamiji. But when a person who reaches the stage of liberation, so while we are discussing about the fourth stage, the concept of liberation, we finally suggest us be unattached and let the mind centers on work. Here, the responsibility of every human being is just do his work incessantly, and not think over the consequences that will be made by the impressions of good and bad deeds. Good and bad deeds. So after this one, he is trying to give us about master and slave work. Master and slave's work. Here he talks about what type of work we should do. According to Swami Vivekananda, slave's work is completely selfish work. Slave's work is completely selfish one. There is an expecting something in return. So 99% of the people on this earth work like slaves. Work like slaves. We always expect something in return. Whenever we want something in return, and that will be a selfish work, according to Swami Vivekananda. That's why we should work like a master and not like a slave. Because if I work with freedom, he inspired by love, there is no true love possible in the slave. And this is another annotation we need to prepare for the exam. That is the annotation number 3 that are given at the end of the lesson. So in this particular sentence, what Swamiji says here is work with freedom and inspired by love. So how should we work? We should work inspired by love. So we must love our work. Then only we just get the freedom from the bondages of evil and good. Evil and good. And there is no true love possible in the slave. So yes, what Swamiji said here is exactly true. There is no true love possible in selfish work. Here he gives the example. If you buy a slave and tie him to do the work, he will do the drudge. He will do the drudge. So here the word drudge means monotonous and dull work, a hard work that he made by someone. He was forced by someone to do that work. So in that work there is a selfishness. He just wants freedom, or he just wants wages for the work he has done. So such kind of selfishness appears in slave's work, and there is no true love possible in slave's work. Here he gives an example. Here God himself works incessantly. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, I am unattached. I too work like human being incessantly. As I am the Lord of all human beings, why should I work? Here Lord Krishna asks a question to Arjuna. I am a God. Why should I need to work? Because he says he loves mankind. He loves to work. So there is a true love in God. So even if God is doing his work incessantly, after all we are human beings. So that's why God suggests us, Bhagavad Gita says that we should work incessantly with real love. With real love. So don't work like a slave. Do work like a master. So that is the example he gives to explain this point, master and slave's work. So there is another example given by the Swami Vivekananda to discuss this point. So that is, he is asking a question here. Do your parents expect anything in return from you? So my direct question is, whether a parent expects anything in return from their children? No. Every parent does his duty. Every parent does his duty as a responsibility. because they love children. They feel it is their responsibility to take care of their children. They just sacrifice so many things for the sake of children. But they never expect anything in return. Suppose your parents feed you for 23 years or 25 years. After getting your job, will they ask you for salary to purchase the things what they want to do? No. Maybe some parents, but not all the parents do it. So, like that, here the work what we do should be done with a real life, like a parent shows on their children. On their children. So, like that, whatever we do for the society or for the world, for anyone else, do the work with love. Then only you get the next stage what the writer suggested here. Thus is called master's work. So finally he says that don't do work as a slave because there is a selfishness in it. Do as a master. Do like a God. Master here in the sense God's work. Because he loves the mankind, that's why he continuously providing us what we need. So like that, every human being works incessantly inspired by true love. So that is the thing we need to learn under this point, master and slaves work. Because every act brings happiness. Every act brings happiness that must be inspired by love. So every act brings happiness because real existence, knowledge and real love are permanently connected, eternally connected. So real existence, real knowledge and real love, they are permanently connected. Where there is a real love, there is knowledge. Where there is a knowledge, there is real love. Where there is an existence, there is the both. So thus these three things are connected. Thus we need to work like a master. So this is the another point here we need to learn. And come to the last one. So in this point, Swami Vivekananda says about the things that guide the conduct of human beings. As we discussed earlier in the introduction of the essay, I told you that the present essay points out the things that guide the conduct of the human beings. Here now we come to that point. So what are the two things that are guided the conduct of human beings? According to Swami Vivekananda, might and mercy that are guided the human conduct. So according to him, might refers selfishness and mercy is a heavenly quality. But here all people believe, so many people believe that right and justice run this world. But here Vivekananda says that not the right and justice. According to him, these two words mere a baby stock. They don't have complete sense according to him. But what he here says is might and mercy, these are the two things that guide the conduct of human beings. That is, to be good, we all have to be merciful. To be good, we all to be merciful. So we can understand we should not practice might, because might is nothing but selfishness, as he said. So to be good, we all have to be merciful. So while explaining this point, we have an important annotation here. That is the fourth annotation. That is the idea of mercy and selfless charity can be put into practice. That is by looking upon work as worship. Work as worship. And the concluding things, the stage every human being must reach according to Swami Vivekananda, that is work as worship. How can we understand this? By practicing mercy, the heavenly quality, unselfishness, by being good, and that takes you to the ultimate stage. How can we reach that ultimate stage? What is the ultimate stage? How can we practice mercy? How can we practice mercy? That is by looking upon work as worship. That is the main theme of the essay. So, work as worship. Do the work like adoring God. Like focus on it completely. So, for example, if you are having the habit of worshipping God, you just sit before an idol of a god, or you just sit before the picture of a god and do rituals with complete concentration. That is called worship. And such kind of concentration, such kind of dedication, such kind of love must be placed on every work what we do. Not for some things only, not for some deeds only. It needs for all. Thus, the essay ends with the things that guide the human being's conduct, that are might and mercy. These are the things we should practice. By practicing mercy, we can reach the next stage by looking upon work as worship. Mercy and selfless charity can be put into practice, that is by looking upon work as worship. Thus, Swami Vivekananda ends his speech by saying, so let us rewind the total points what he discusses in this particular essay, The Secret of Work. There are 6 things we need to remember. And the first one is the solution for the cure the miseries of the world. What is the solution that is made by Swami Vivekananda to cure the disease of miseries of the world, to cure the miseries of the world? And the second thing is how a man's character to be established. While discussing the point, he tells us about samskara. And the next thing is be unattached and get the liberation from the bondages of evil as well as good. That is called liberation. And after that, in the fourth point, he discussed about master and slave's work. Master and slave's work. And finally, he suggests that by practicing mercy, we just see work as worship. By looking upon work as worship, we just get the final stage of mercy. That is the heavenly quality. That is the heavenly quality. So these are the things we need to remember for this essay. So there are 4 questions and 4 annotations that are given at the end of the lesson. And the first annotation answer is also given after about the essay. You can read and practice it. That is the best material we have in the textbook than the material. And For the remaining annotations and questions, I will provide you the notes. So prepare well, and this is one of the important lessons that we can expect an annotation or a question from this lesson in public examinations. Okay, thank you for watching.